Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with the September meeting of the Finance and HR Committee. So let us, while I'm trying to get my agenda up here, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
Okay, so minutes are approved, so we'll go ahead with the agenda. So the vast majority of this, if not almost all, is consent agenda. So let me just open my notes up. Does anyone have, I'll go through it individually and just see if anybody has any questions. The JAG grant, any questions, any discussion? Okay. The DWI task force grant? Going once? Yep. Bike safe grant. I would love it if we didn't call it bike. I would love it if we called it motorcycle. But that's just me. Okay, HIDTA grant. The automatic aid agreement. The only question I had about this one with the fire department is, do they go to the fire department? No, so I guess I'll just be asking into the air. Do any of our partners in mutual aid pay us? I never thought that, I didn't realize that we had any relationships where we actually paid another agency. I just thought they were agreements for mutual aid, but in this case, we're paying Reeves Creek, and I was just wondering if we have other agreements like that, and kind of why is this one special? But nonetheless, I will go for it. So, hearing no other questions.
I will move to approve the consent agenda.
Second, great. Okay, so then we'll move on to the CFO update.
Barbara Whitehorn, CFO.
Was a sassy name.
Thank you. Yes, very sassy.
Yes.
I'm loving it. I don't have a whole lot to update you on. The auditors, our external auditors, are on site this week. So far, everything's going swimmingly, if I can knock on wood. They scheduled 2 weeks, but they do not anticipate having to be here for 2 weeks because we got them everything that they requested on time. They were able to do a lot of review ahead of time. They have had one key staff turnover. Our audit senior or audit manager left the firm kind of right in the middle. So but we do have someone who was on our audit last year. So they at least are familiar with us. And our partner is on site this week. So he's really making sure that we're on track. We have emphasized several times the critical importance of our deadlines. So that should be good. The only other thing is, small economic update. As you know, the Fed lowered rates, so we can see our investment returns start to dribble off a little bit. So, and that's about it.
Okay.
Any questions?
Okay. Okay, so rebates.
Hi, good afternoon, and here to talk about fee rebate. Paul D'Angelo with
thousands of people.
folks at home.
Yeah.
Yes, Paul D'Angelo with the Community and Economic Development Department here to talk about fee rebates and an update to that policy. Hopefully everyone has the staff report and policy in front of them, and looking for consideration of this new fee rebate policy as recommended by community development staff. And the action requested would be discussion, input, and approval of a new standalone fee rebate policy to move to HCD committee next month, followed by council. As with other policies, council wants us to take a look at these policies about once a year to see how effective they're going. And so that's one reason the community development picked this up about 6 months ago to take a look at how this policy was working. So to take a look at some proposed changes we had, affordable housing minimum requirements to qualify for a 50% rebate on your fees for the affordable unit. The proposed development would be within the city limits of Asheville. All rental projects must serve individuals and households at 80% AMI for a minimum of 20 years. An ownership project must serve individuals and households making under 80% AMI. A project can either be new construction or rehabilitation, and at least 20% of the units in the development must be affordable to qualify for a grant rebate, either rental or for sale. The grant rebate could be 75% if one of more of the following are met. A rental project serves individuals or households under 60% of the area median income for a minimum of 20 years, and an ownership project with the same AMI of 60%. And the last there for a grant rebate could be 100% or more if one of the following are met. They're offering permanent affordability, whether that's a for sale or rental product, especially with a for sale, it would be with the community land trust as an example, or affordability where at least 20% of the units target individuals and families under 30% of area median income, or those homeless or in danger of being homeless. Eligible fees for this would be planning and zoning, site development, building safety, fire, water service connection. There's some sustainability fees here. That would be just for single-family homes where you could get the rebates based on the green certification, the possibility of solar or tree protection. Some pros of updating this policy. The proposed policy comes from staff, community development, stakeholders, developers, and committee members over the past year that address issues of affordability from 80 to 30% of AMI, as well as our homeless population. The policy follows community development's efforts of creating policies that are easy to comprehend, usable, and equated to a dollar amount for a developer to work with their balance sheet. And based on analysis in the agreement with consultants at 319 Biltmore, an operational fee like a fee grant has the potential to incentivize developers to build affordable units. The cons here would be that unless budgeted from the general fund, any approved fee grant may not be awarded and could reduce the effectiveness of the policy and discourage the development of housing units to include affordable housing. There's some fiscal impacts noted, particularly that the water services come from an enterprise fund. To be rebated, they'd have to come from general fund. Even though a grant would be awarded, you wouldn't see that amount rebated back until the units were actually built and verified. And then currently we have a budget of about $85,000 to do fee rebates. We did have a project come through from the previous land use incentive grant that took about $66,000 of it, leaving us with a lower balance. And also there's a balance or a budget for sustainability of $15,000 as well. Those would need to be considered if we're successful in using this as an incentive for affordable housing. And happy to answer any questions.
The fee grants, I don't understand the sustainability fee. We charge a fee?
No, they would get if they provided one of these sustainabilities, they would get a fee rebate. They would get money back, and Amber is here from
So it's not really a
sustainability.
rebate. I mean, since we don't really charge anything, we're basically giving them a grant.
It's a rebate on your permit fees, your building permit fees. So generally, a residential construction home is
Come
gonna
on
have,
up,
sorry,
you know, for our television audience.
sorry, Bridget Herring with the Sustainability Office. So generally, a single-family home might have anywhere from like $1,000 to $1,500 in building permit fees, and so this would be subtracted from that. That makes sense.
Okay, that does make sense. All right, it was just, okay. Yeah, I just think that having it say sustainability fee sounds, I just recommend be sustainability rebate. Yeah, and just, right.
I could do that.
And on page, I'm on the fee, I'm on that sustainability, the fee grant. The 2 stars, applicable for at least one existing shade tree on the city's approved recommended species. So, does that mean that they saved a tree? I'm sorry.
So there is,
I'm
the
looking
tree
at-
protection is where you save a tree. The energy saving tree planting is for a new
A
tree.
new tree.
Both trees have to be on our approved list though, so that we're making sure it's actually a shade species, it's a native species.
Okay, okay. And in this case, is there a limit to how much of a rebate one can get for the sustainability?
So potentially you could, so the gray boxes, you can only pick one of those because those are all whole home certifications. And so they're kind of tiered based on kind of what you're getting for them.
Okay.
So you could only get one out of the
500
grid,
would be
right?
the most.
But then you could also add on top of that, if you had solar, you could also add the 175. And then
And
if you
then
had
you
the
could get a bunch
trees.
of trees, potentially.
What they,
Or is it
we're
only-
looking at it as just that's a total for the property. For the tree protection is 100.
Okay, not per tree. Okay, so can we just
Clarify that?
clarify that?
Sure.
Because to me, when I was reading it, it was like, well, is that for every tree?
Right.
So basically, I mean, the max somebody could get is $775
Correct.
if they did all the perfect things. Okay,
Correct.
all right. Okay, that just helped me. I was getting a little confused. And then there was a reference to the HCD had looked at it and had one question, and then I didn't see where that one question was.
Right, I think I added it back to the past, after the fact when that material went out for the policy. What HCD was looking at is, we talked about just doing a 50% rebate. They wanted to see a tier for perhaps the 75 and 100%, which is where we added that in, as well as, if you see on the last page of the actual policy itself, a discussion that if perhaps we work with a developer who has worked with us before, who's mission-driven, perhaps like the Habitat or MHO or the Housing Authority, that those fees could be possibly waived up front. So we put a note in the end that in addition, certain fees subject to rebates could be waived. We could add the language if approved by council up front based on developers' experience. Several of the nonprofit mission-driven developers that we spoke to up front suggested that it would be nice to know that if they were going in, the possibility of waiving those fees up front, knowing that they're building affordable units.
And then the only other question I had is, what's our chance to, I mean, how do we feel about MSD's Affordable Housing Cost Recovery Reimbursement Program? And is there room to, is there any justification to go back to MSD and see if they could make that a little more generous, or doing the same kind of tiering, or, because I think they just give a one or none.
They do for a multifamily unit. The numbers, I think, normally they would pay $1,870, I think. But if the unit is affordable, based on the letter from Community Development Department, they'll do $690. So that's been really positive, I think, and that seems to be working. And it was a little bit of a primer, if you will, for us developing this policy into making something easy, that it was a fee rebate for the unit. We did try in this policy, and I think it's the second or third page, where we pointed folks to that MSD, as well as the possibility of sustainability, not only through us, but through Duke Energy, that there's possibilities to further look at it if it's affordable, if it's efficient. There's some more fees out there to help incentivize the development.
Okay, I'm just wondering, and maybe it's note to self, that maybe MSD could relook and see if they feel like they could be a little more, you know, since we've made our policy a little more generous, maybe they could relook at their policy and see what they could do. You know, because I know that's kind of a big chunk.
Absolutely.
So, okay. Any other questions?
I've got one question. So if at least 20% of the units are affordable, that's the threshold, but the fee rebate applies to the whole project?
It would actually be just for the affordable
Just for the
units.
affordable
Correct.
units, okay.
And that was a back and forth with several folks, but
Yeah.
we landed on just for the affordable unit.
That wasn't clear to me when I read this, so if I just missed it, that was just totally possible?
I can make sure make sure that's clarified.
That's really clear, yeah. That's it for me.
I did have one comment. BJ, I don't know if you saw this language, but regarding we did add a sentence that the rehabilitation or redevelopment of a unit must be rented at the same or lower AMI level as the original unit, or sold to an individual from at the same lower AMI level. So you saw that? Great, thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you.
not brownie points, but just, they want to make sure it's something.
So HCD has approved this or has not?
They have not, no. They actually asked to pause on it, and so we're taking it to finance and we'll bring it back to HCD next month in October.
Okay, so I would,
I make a motion that we recommend approval of the revised fee rebate policy to HCD.
Second.
And on to the full council.
Second.
okay, great.
Thank you.
Nature Center. Chris.
Thank you, folks. I'm Chris Gentile, Director at the Nature Center, the Western North Carolina Nature Center, I should say, not to be confused with other nature centers. But what I wanted to show you today, and you usually ask that we come quarterly and kind of talk about how we're doing. Also, BJ, you asked last time for us to kind of put this into more a condensed dashboard, which we hope we did here. I just wanted to call your attention to how we performed in FY19. And you'll notice that what was budgeted was about $218,000 subsidy. And with the increased revenues we had this year, our subsidy ended up being about $194,000, which is about 16% of our overall budget. Barbara always asked me to remember to tell you that it doesn't include our utilities, mostly because it's very difficult for us to tease out utilities since we share them with other areas that are other park department buildings that are near us. It's hard for us to tease out exactly what's Nature Center, but Robert budgets utilities park department wide, so it's something that goes against our Parks and Rec budget. Next time I will try to tease it out a little bit more to give you an accurate picture, but it still would keep us well within the tolerance that y'all are asking us to stay within. One thing I think that's worth mentioning, if you look at the attendance, you'll notice that our attendance has gone up about 20,000 people from last fiscal year. We report usually attendance to our parent organization, well, not our parent organization, but our membership organization, Association of Zoos and Aquariums, on an annual basis. And just yesterday, we broke our attendance, all-time attendance record for a year, and we still have 3 months to go. So we'll probably be somewhere in the neighborhood of 170, 180,000 people. About 10 years ago, we were at 87,000. So that gives you an example of how much we've grown in 10 years. Not only thanks to the support that the council's given us in the city, but also because of the support we've received from the community, and the Friends of the Nature Center certainly has helped us a lot with our growth. Another thing I'd like to point out that I think is very exciting is you'll notice the number of people who are visiting the Nature Center that are Asheville residents has gone up. So we're seeing about 27% of our attendance come from within the city of Asheville. And then many of you know that we also have an agreement with Buncombe County to reimburse, the Friends do, to reimburse us for anybody that comes from Buncombe County outside of Asheville. So they pay the same resident rate. And we're seeing about 8% of our guests overall coming from the non-Asheville Buncombe County towns, Weaverville and Black Mountain, places like that. So if you think about that, 33% of our attendance is coming from within our area, which is exactly what we want. Now, another thing I think that's very important, that's not in this report that I'd like to mention, we're very, in Parks and Rec, of course, we're very focused on diverse audiences and how we include new groups and new people that haven't come to the Nature Center before. We just launched an initiative with a group called Culture City, and it was a very well-received press release that we did, and we've gotten a lot of attention on it. Culture City is a group that's focused on folks that have neurodiversity. So whether it be autism or post-traumatic stress or things like that, it's a great partnership, mostly because we're so close to the VA hospital, and we see a lot of participants that come to us from the VA groups that have post-traumatic stress disorder. So we've actually created parts of the Nature Center that are neurodiverse, that are places that people that have certain, things that would prevent them from coming to a crowded place or a busy place would make it a scary experience for them. We've now welcomed them more with open arms. So when we talk about diversity and inclusion, that's something that we're very proud of. And another thing that we're extremely proud of when it comes to diversity and inclusion is some of the summer programs that we've offered now for some of our centers within the city. So we have several weeks that we invite folks from within the city of Asheville that may not be able to come to the Nature Center camps any other way to come free of charge as part of being part of the centers that they're part of, and they're transported to us and we work with them as well. So we're very proud, not just of the attendance and the increase in revenues that we've seen, but also that we're doing that by increasing our openness to other audiences. And we believe that's crucial, and obviously the city does as well, since we have such a strong diversity and inclusion program. So the future is very bright. It's only getting brighter. We're in the process of designing a new exhibit for, a year-round exhibit for butterflies, which is a very popular exhibit that we've had in the past. And hopefully that exhibit will be done here in the next few years. One of the things that we'll be bringing to you in the coming months before next budget year is an idea of increasing our fees, our admission fees. And you'll remember that Frank's team led a discussion about 5 years ago. We hired a group that looked at our fees, and their recommendations were to go up and then in 5 years revisit that. So starting in next year, it'll be 5 years. So we're going to revisit that as a team and bring that proposal forward. So hopefully that's, we're doing exactly what we should be, and we're very proud of what we've done.
Question.
Yes.
Next year's Friends of the Nature Center, what's that number gonna be? Is it down to 150 next year?
This year it's at 150,000, and one of the things.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, going forward.
1920.
Sure, going forward. We haven't negotiated yet a memorandum of understanding with them. This year, I know Deborah was interested in keeping our MOUs similar, so we'd have a chance to look at all the partnerships we have within the city of Asheville. And we fully intend to go back to the Friends and look at the contributions that they make for operating the membership program. So we can't at this time say if it's going to go up or if it's going to go down. We're going to take a look at our overall budget and craft it for next year, and then see make sure that we're keeping with the subsidy that you all requested, but also making sure that the contributions that they give to the Nature Center above and beyond finance, by over tapping them, we also don't want to do that because they provide a great service to us. So.
But it is 150,000 for 1920.
Yes.
And what's our budgeted subsidy for 1920? Do you remember?
For 1920, our budget
Next year.
for the year that we're in right now,
Yes.
our budgeted subsidy is about 21%. So we're right now, of course, we're off to a really good start because of the increase with our front entrance excitement in the Red Panda exhibit. So we fully anticipate that we'll come in below that as we have been doing. But it's always good to budget conservatively so that just in case we have 50 straight rainy days, we'll make sure that we're still within budget.
That's why I'm not recommending this.
How are they doing?
Yeah.
That's right. They're fantastic.
They're so cute.
Well, thank you,
Have you been
Brenda.
up there?
They're very cute.
They sleep though a lot, you know, when you go see them, but if they're a little bit, they're.
Clearly, you're not coming at the right times because they're very active.
It's like tripping.
No, I'm just joking. Actually, the red panda, it's funny because somebody stopped me because the red pandas have gotten a lot of attention and said, how much did it cost for you guys to buy the red pandas? And I don't think people understand that zoos, like accredited facilities like ours, are very much into conservation and animal welfare, and there is no buying of animals. So instead I said, well, we've earned about $150,000 extra this year, if that tells you anything.
They does.
So they have been wonderful, but it's also a wonderful conservation story, and it's a chance for us to broaden our reach a little bit more, because now we're seeing folks that are much more interested in the paleontology and the geology of our region coming to visit us, because we've opened up that science door for them, not just with that exhibit, but through some of the partnerships we have with East Tennessee State University and their science and geology program. But so it allows us to increase the diverse audiences. So.
Don't forget your otters.
No,
They're
don't.
cute too.
No, we love the otters. Yeah, they're very cute. I'll make sure I tell all the animals that you thought they were.
Exactly. They're all cute.
Okay, the hellbender's really not so cute. I'm not saying I don't like the hellbender, I'm just saying he's not all that cute.
And we were just thinking about naming the hellbender Julie.
I would be so honored. Even after you dissed it.
That's right.
A
That's right.
slimy lord.
So I do want to thank, obviously, the Finance Committee and City Council has been incredibly generous to us. The City of Asheville, not just the folks that work at the Nature Center, but throughout the whole city. It's a team effort. I mean, it takes a village to do what we do at the Nature Center, and it's something we should all be proud of. And when we have little things that may not be what we want to see in the news, it's nice to know that we always have the Nature Center as something that our city is 110% behind. So that's why we've been able to accomplish what we've accomplished.
I've got a quick question.
Yes.
The line item labeled commissions,
Mm-hmm.
what is that?
Well, that's a great question. Commissions is when we have an agreement with the Friends to run our gift shop operation, and they pay a rental fee each month to use the space. But also commissions is when we have we work with the Civic Center on a contract for beverage, for soda machines and snack machines and things like that, and we get a percentage of those commissions back that goes into that line. And one of the reasons, that's a great question, Julie, one of the reasons why that was down a bit is because before we opened the new front entrance, the snack machines were really the only option for a food at the nature center, and they were in a prime location. And then when we opened the new entrance and the gift shop came out that was also selling snacks, they weren't quite as, the foot traffic wasn't as heavy. We've moved the snack machines into a more advantageous location that allows people to see them a little bit more, so we expect that number to go up again. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so that is everything on our agenda, and I'll open it up for public comment.